like we're falling away. Maybe I just need to feel nothing to make it easier to turn away and leave. Maybe we're fanning the flame, so why do I keep holding out my hand to get burned? I don't wanna clash anymore. I can hear the ghosts in the walls. It's telling me to run away, away, yeah. I don't wanna crash anymore. I can hear the ghosts in the walls. It's telling me to run away.
Here in Monza, and it is a race opening victory for Eve. I'm still battling with Kuba.
You said you don't know me well, but I'm your angel and white. I'll be close if you come. I'll be just behind you. You're not on the list, but I can get you inside. Use your mind, listen to my voices, I'll guide you. Give yourself over, yeah, you don't wanna fight. If you do, I'm gonna bid you all.
But he's gone wide!
Night,
He's going
hang on to your
incredible!
ticket, you're doing alright. And if you don't trust it, hold it up to the light. So quiet, try to hide it. If a new thought formed, we would swallow it down. Empty stairs, never question the illusion. If you play alone, they will leave you to drown. Stand up, 'cause we are the movement. Don't stop, straight into the dark. Wake up, 'cause this is the moment. And every fire starts with a spark. A revolution. Stand up, 'cause we are the movement. Don't stop, straight into the dark. Wake up, 'cause this is the moment. And every fire starts with a spark. A revolution.
Hello, and welcome to FRLT Season 6, and it is time for assists this week, and I can't lie, I'm excited to see what's going to happen today. We've got more than half the grid in the lobby right now. They are slow. So we do currently have 13 drivers in the lobby. We should be having a full 20, so we're 7 short at the moment. Some teams just seem to be dead. Some people aren't joining. So I am just, we're just trying to get the last couple of drivers in. I've got a lot of people on the list. So I do apologise, I am trying to find some people. There we go. So, we have everything ready to go. I do apologise for my silence. I'm having to search for people because, of course, like usual, people don't join and they don't try to join until the final, 2 seconds before we actually need to get going. For some strange reason, people seem to think it's a smart and intelligent way to get in, but it's not. So, let's go through a couple of things. Calendar. We've gone from China last week. We now come to our short sprint. 3 races in Europe, going from Austria, Imola, and Great Britain. Then we'll be going to Australia for the final race of the season before returning in the new year to Asia with Singapore. Then Monza, Brazil, Netherlands, Las Vegas, and Japan. Here is a track map for tonight. As you can see, 4.318 kilometers, 2.683 miles, 10 turns. Least amount of turns on the track and the shortest track in lap time on the F1 calendar. As you can see, quite a lot of elevation towards that turn 3 and turn 4, heading up and down the hill. And that's how it goes. Also, we have standings. Yes, we have some beautiful standings. SET finish out top on the champion. I do apologise, everyone. That's an incorrect graphic. That's the incorrect graphic. I do apologise. This is the correct graphic. I do apologise, everyone. I'm very sorry. So, big apologies, everyone, for that. But here are the actual standings. EVR lead the championship on 27 points. A good P1, P6 finish. Also lands them on a 9 out of 10 for rating. FR as well, they came in P2, almost won the race, but ultimately just lost out. And then SKG following on the same amount of points. Then LR just 1 point further behind. Then AERT, then OMB, SET. SET had a very interesting race. Both championship sort of contenders from last season, just SET championship contender, off the pace of the reigning champions of SKG. And the team that finished in second ahead of them, EVR, quite far behind, only on 6 points to start off their campaign. So it's been a rather slow start. I've got to say, it's been a very slow start for them. And not the best starts to seasons. That's why they're also rated down just in a 5 out of 10. Very tough start. So, a little bit of disappointment, of course, for some people. We're about to get going in the next few minutes. So, yeah. So, we're waiting on, I think, one driver for the moment. And that one driver is a it is a Williams, which, if I'm not wrong, is an SKG. We are waiting on an SKG at the moment for this race. Also, just to point out, SET and SKG both have double qualifying bans. Now, if both drivers don't this week do their qualifying bans that they've got, for SKG only one driver in, if they don't have their second driver in for it, they're going to have to, that's going to roll over into round 3, which of course is not what you want. So yeah, so it's not great. It's not always what you want. Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, so we're waiting on one driver who doesn't seem to be able to join, which of course is going to be very frustrating for some people. It's going to be pretty frustrating. So yeah, so we're about to get into the lobby now as everybody's readying up. So we are now getting into the lobby. It is a short qualifying. It's an 18-minute qualifying followed by a 50% race. So yeah, so we've got that. SET and SKG are serving qualifying bans. Yeah, so we are now into qualifying. I've got some people whinging about the fact that I won't give AERT for this race a double qualifying ban. So, I just want to point out something, just on stream, as we now are into qualifying. A lot of teams forget that when it comes down to lineups and them being invalid, I don't tell teams, but at the same time, I will tell teams they have qualifying bans if they're late, but a team has to, yeah, I'll tell them if they're late and then they get qualifying bans, but the way it works for wrong lineups is it will carry, the penalty will be for the next week, not for that race, if people have forgotten, which I suspect a lot of people have, because it's definitely nobody's remembered how it works at all. I just know nobody's really remembered. I just know nobody's really remembered how it works. But the first driver out on track is Simone Equestre, out on track. Sorry, I'm having to sort audio settings because they've gone a bit funny. There we go. But yeah, first driver out on track this evening. No, FR does not exist anymore, but it's on the standings because they raced in round 1. Alexander Esposito now retires since they have a qualifying ban, so that is one qualifying ban served by SKG, and if they don't get their other driver in during qualifying, that will then be a second they've got to serve the other one for next week. So, let's ride on board with Simone Equestre. Simon, I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but Simon making his way around. He's crossed the line to start off the first lap here in Austria in round 2 into turn 1, throwing the car through lots of oversteer. The rear just getting away there. Yannick Asaris also retires, also having to take, of course, that qualifying ban for SET. So SET's championship starts looking much worse now than last season. It's just looking like a really poor start to their season. Through that turn 3, though, not too bad. So far, that OMB car looks quick on the straights. Not very good on the brakes, though. Seems to be two very sort of different cars. Through sort of when Simon's on the throttle here, you can just see he's on the throttle and he's just, the car's planted to the ground. But when he's sort of off the throttle and he's on the brakes, the car's just not there. But he's coming round penultimate corner, now into the final corner. Of course, very easy to invalidate, but coming around this final corner, up to the line, and across the line, it's going to be a 1 minute 3.941 to start off qualifying. That's the first lap time of the evening. Then we've got AZR Vettel making his way around. He also makes his return to FRLT for the first time in a couple of months as well, so nice to see him return. Up to the line, is he going to beat that? And I think it's going to be very clear, yeah, it's going to be a 1 minute 3.592. And that's immediately beaten by Jerry Weiss, who finds another 100th in the lap time. We see Mike Gravel go into P4 as Hasho goes on to provisional pole, 1 minute 3.3. Already finding that time for TMS. See LK as well jumps into 1 minute 3.3s, but is 15 thousandths away from provisional pole. So he's gotten very close, but not close enough in the end. We've had 6 drivers cross the line. And sadly, Simon, who was the slowest on the first run, so it's a bit of disappointment for himself. We've got Clips making his way round, and across the line, he now goes slowest, 1 minute 4.0. It's the first driver who's dipped into the 1 minute 4s, so I'm quite surprised to see he is the first. Usually we don't see a lot of drivers dip in. Well, we do see drivers dip into it, but what I mean is, like, we don't see a huge chunk of drivers dip into the 1 minute 4s. So I have to say, so far, 6 out of 7 drivers are in the 1 minute 3s. So far, not going too badly. Heading round, Philip Nazlovsky coming up to the line now. As he crosses the line, it's going to be a 1 minute 4.0 as well. Just missing out. Just missing out. I do apologise. I don't know what's happened to my PC. We just saw Nemi as well. Nemi goes P3, so he jumps up the order quite nicely there. As now AERT Tom finds even more time to go into a 1 minute 3.2. Remember, this was the man who took the fastest lap at the end of the last race and took P4. And he is in the 1 minute 3.2s, gunning for that provisional pole this evening. Very much gunning for it, as we saw Jacob cross the line in P3. And Cormac Hutton as well. 1 minute 3.2 on 5. Provisional pole. AERT are in a little bit of trouble for their lineup, but that will cross over to next week. SET and SKG. SKG, the previous champions, on a qualifying ban for this week, which could even knock them down in the championship. They're currently third, as we just saw Gotto go P2 as well. He's slotted into the 3.2s, just ahead of his teammates. So 3 drivers all in the 1 minute 3.2s. They've got only 2 drivers in the 1 minute 3.3s. Nobody's in the 1 minute 3.4s, which is quite awkward to see. We'd usually see a couple of people, but at the moment, it looks like EVR. It very much looks like an EVR versus AERT battle over this race. It looks very clear. That's an AERT versus EVR battle over this pole. You know, this evening, they're very much 2 teams. I will say that in all of it, I'm purely saying it because they are in the top 4. The 2 teams are just locked out the top 4 at the moment. Then we got TMS, then we got LR, and that's kind of it. Just the sort of top 6 are really sort of those ones in the battle. I'm not being mean at all. Just the top 6 that are really, yeah. I look at and I go, they're in the battle for pole at the moment. Simon, he's had a bit of a problem. Simon Equestri, down in P11, 1 minute 3.9. He's 7 tenths. He's over 7. He needs 3/4 of a second to go pole, and with a bit of a gap. So he's really got to find a lot of time on this run, and I'm not sure whether he just had a tough first run or whether this is going to be the pace for OMB. We saw last week, not great pace, 7 points out of the first race of the season. Of course, they're heading into Austria hoping for a bit more luck, but at the moment, P11 and P19 in qualifying, they're really waiting for something to get a bit better. And out of the first sector, he's already up by 2/10 of a second. He's almost at that 1/4 second already just for the first sector alone, so he's already found quite a bit of time. That still, as it stands, still he's going to be P11, but he's going to be a lot closer to Mike Gravel. If he keeps that up, he'll gain about 6/10, almost 7/10 across this lap, but it still won't be enough to go incredibly far. But let's see, his middle sector, the Aston Martin looks a lot better this time around. And out of that middle sector, he's up by 3.5 so that is perfectly enough. That is going to send him to P10. But the big question now, can he reach the top 9? Can he break into possibly up to 7th? We'll have to see as he makes his way round into the final corner. You've got to get this right. All the way up to the track limits and all the way up to the line now. And it's going to be P4. He found a lot of time in that final sector. 1/4 of a second, by the way. Over 1/4 of a second. Almost 3/10 in the final sector he found. And I've got to say, a very strong lap. We just saw Charles H. Dubois go into P12. So not the best of runs. Not the strongest of runs for himself. I think Hasho is the next. Or it is actually Mike Gravel who's going to be the next. Who's coming round. And I'm not sure. And then we've got Clips who's just behind him. So Mike Gravel making his way round towards the final corner. We've got a big line of cars coming round. Some on outlaps, some on fast laps at the moment. And across the line, he doesn't improve, actually. He goes slower in the end. Philip Nalovsky goes into P11. And Deck goes P3. Also finding it into the 1 minute 3.2s. Very, very strong. I do apologise again, everybody. My PC just deciding that it needs to do it. It wants to send me some notifications. But Cormac Hutton's still comfortably on pole at the moment. We've got Jacob who's on a lap. He's improving. As LK 1 minute 3.017. RLR looking at back-to-back weeks of pole. I believe it is pole position, if I'm correct. Back-to-back weeks of it. I might be wrong. I probably am. I am wrong. Yeah, I've just looked. I am. I'm pretty sure wrong. Yeah. Let me double check this for you guys. I want to double check. Let me have a look. It was, yeah, I was wrong. Apologies, everyone. Apologies. Very sorry about that confusion. But yeah, LK with an incredibly fast time. Also, Jacob, we've got to point him out as well to a 3.1 in all of that. Has Gotto just done his lap? No, he's starting his lap. You've got Jerry Rice, who's going slowly. Tom is invalidated. Nemi's coming across line. He goes to P9, but look at how the time is actually getting down now. The top 10 split by just over 0.3 of a second, so it has come down actually quite a big amount now. It's getting a lot closer than it was earlier. Jacob slowly rolling his way back to the pits. We've got Jerry Weiss, who's also on his way in slowly. But we've got Gotto, who's on a fast lap. He's gone up by 1/10.5 in his middle sector, so he's finding a decent chunk of time. So at the moment, he looks like he could be going to the front row. AERT, LR, UFRT, EVR. Oh my god, so many teams. As he goes over! Oh no, final corner, and that would have been P3. And he would have only gained one place, but... Oh, that is a painful one, as I think we just saw OMB's Carlos Peyroton. Peyroton. I don't know. I'm just going to call him Carlos. As we saw Carlos go to P11. So, he's just... It just shows that 1/10 of a second can send you from P11 to about P8 in the grid. That's what 1/10 at the moment is doing. It's sort of 3 places you can gain. So it's at the moment incredibly close. It's very close at the moment. Do we have anybody out on track? No, we don't. Everybody is on their way into the pits. So at the moment, this is a bit of a quiet face, but I do see somebody coming out of the pits. It's a Mercedes. It's Cormac Hutton on his way out of the pits. Of course, he was on provisional pole after the first runs, but after the second runs, he got blocked. He didn't find the time he needed, and ultimately, he is now back down to 3.2s, and he's along. He needs to find exactly 0.2 just to take pole by 0.002 of a second, making it one of the closest pole positions in FRLT history. Just to remind you guys, 0.002 of a second. That's the difference, even if it was to gain to 0.2 of a second. So a very, very big difference. 100 times. 100 times 0.002 of a second he needs to find. Of course, if you're wondering why both SKG and SEC drivers are currently retired from the session, no, they didn't have a big crash. They just simply... they had qualifying bans for late lineups, so they're going to be hurt a bit more. But let's ride on board with Cormac Hutton on his lap. Let's see what he can do across his final run in this session. I do believe this would be his final run over the curb. Very nice there. Bit of sliding off the exit though, so not perfect as you can see. Just pushing the car all the way over 200 miles per hour as he reaches the top of the hill. He's down by 56 thousandths in his first sector, throwing the car in to turn 3. Now back on the DRS once again, down this back straight on top of the hill. Heading downhill now into turn 4. You've got to get this corner right. Turn 4 is difficult. Through turn 4, very nicely done. Now, coming up to turn 5 and 6. 7. 6 and 7. I just know somebody's going to say that. Turn 6 and turn 7. Now, only turn 9 and 10 left to go. Into turn 9, you've got to get the car right. Whoa, and that was not right. A little bit too much over the curb into the final corner. Now, heading up to the line. Is it going to be fastest? No, it's not. It's still going to be P3, but it's 49 thousandths of a second faster. And only 49 thousandths, though. And that's not exactly what he'd be hoping for. Hasho is on a slow lap at the moment. He's not happy with his lap time. He's put together, same as Philip Nalovsky, who is also going around for another run. I think he's the next one. It's Simon. He's back on a lap again, but he's going slowly, so he's obviously trying to burn some fuel. But Philip making his way around now. Of course, this is for the team of AZR. It's all up to this. Down by 1/10 of a second in the first sector as the Aston Martin gets out of the way nicely there. Maybe a little bit late from the camera angle, but better than never. Better late than never. But into turn 4. The Sauber looks pretty decent. I'm not seeing anything bad. Even sort of, you see a little bit of understeer there, but riding on board, I don't see anything that's losing the Saubers sort of 3/10 to the grid. And a big snap there. AZR not coming away lucky. They missed the first race of the season, and now second race, and it is struggles all over again for these guys. Disappointment. Jacob is on a lap. I think we've got quite a few people on a lap, actually. Hasho's on a lap, I think, as well. Simon's starting off a lap. I think we've got Jerry Weiss, who's coming across the line, then his teammate. And then I think we've got Hasho. Yes, Hasho is next as he goes way over. As he invalidates in the end. He would have improved by 900ths. Found just a very tiny amount of time. But it's not what he wanted as Carlos goes into P4. And it is into the 1 minute 3.1s. I mean, it's getting very close. But at the moment, nobody really testing LK in lap time. Still 900ths away on the pace. Gotto is up to the line next. I don't think anybody else is on outlaps now. So it's all up to this as now Charles goes into P12. Then we've got Jacob coming across the line. Jacob down by 21 thousandths at the line. So it is a disappointment at EVR. They just miss out on pole. Now Simon coming across the line. Where can he go? He goes P2 and onto the front row. It's an incredible lap. Deck goes P6. And that's all he's going to be able to get from his lap as we watch around. Jerry Weiss! 1 minute 2.9. Beaten by LK, his teammate, who also does a 1 minute 2.931. What a lap! Vettel came across the line to go P8 and a very close lap. Carlos P6 across the line. We've just seen Tom. He's finished P10. I'm not sure who else we've got. I think we've got Gotto. He's the last driver, I think, who is on a flying lap. But he's gone over and he's invalidated. He's invalidated. Oh my god. But it is LR on pole. And it is LR with a 1-2 and their first ever 1-2 in qualifying. And if I stand correct, I believe it's their first ever pole in FRLT as well. So if I remember correctly, first front row lockout from LR and first pole position from LR. First time for both. Oh, sorry, no, it's not the first time. They had one in Season 3. They had a pole in Season 3. They did have a pole in Season 3. I've just remembered they had a pole in Season 3. But even though they had a pole, they didn't win from it. So it is still their one and only pole. They've had to wait. They raced for 2 seasons. They raced in Season 3, their debut season, in assists. Got a pole and podiums. And they've waited 3 seasons to come and do it again at Austria. But it's their second pole. And I've got to say, good job to them. I mean, second pole, but their first front row lockout. I mean, for such a for a team with such a massive history on the grid, I've got to say, it's impressive for a team who has, who's got such sort of a long history going back to Season 3. You've got to give it to them. But LK is on pole, followed by his teammate Jerry Weiss, then Simon, then Jacob, Cormac Hutton, Carlos, Deck, Vettel, Gotto, Tom, Nemi, Hasho, Mike Gravel, Charles, Philip, Clips, Parker, Yanni, Doctor, and Alexander Esposito. So I'm still gonna say, it's that was sort of a very incredible qualifying. I think again showing how close the grid is on some of these closer tracks. But I think it translates to sort of a lot of tracks, as there is heavy rain, by the way. Just to point out, it is huge amounts of rain. It is raining heavily for this race. It's raining heavily for the opening race. Well, for the second race of the season, I should say. But the opening race for Austria this week. One of 2 races this season that will be coming to Austria on. Okay. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be very interesting because we haven't had a race in heavy rain since last season. All of the opening 2 races last week were rain-free. They were completely dry. No rain at all. So, we've gone sort of through the qualifier. You know, we've had the opening 2 races without it. We've had sort of that. We haven't had a wet race in, I think, about 4 or 5 races now. So it's nice to be back. But for assists and for the drivers, they're not going to be very happy that rain is there, and it is quite heavy as well. I've got to say, it's incredibly heavy out on track at the moment. So that is going to be difficult. Yeah, so we're going to be getting ready in just over a minute's time. But with that, I've got to say, qualifying was interesting there. AERT came out fast. They came out top 2 teams out of the first set of runs. And then in the second set of runs, they've seemed to get dropped down to sort of P5, P6 sort of area. And they've kind of been third quickest. And then in that third and final run, they've just dropped it all and especially with Gotto on that final last corner, improving by so much. He could have gone top 6 and then just drops the ball. It's tough. We've all done it. But it's really bad when you do that, especially now, wet race, Austria. Let's see, who has compromised their race setup the most? Who's compromised, their qualifying setup the most, so they could have a better race? But who has compromised their race setup to have a better qualifying? That's the question. Now that I think a lot of drivers are going to be waiting to see, and I think everybody is waiting to see who has given up what in tonight's race. I believe that to some degree, I think everybody would have given up a bit, but definitely the top 3 or 4 would have definitely focused maybe a bit more on qualifying than the race. I think definitely maybe at most the top 7 or 8. There's definitely a pace gap there, so I think probably the top 7 or 8. But I can hear we're about to get going for Austria. As here we are, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And away we go here in FRLT. Assists, season number 6, round 2 in Austria. And it is wet, and it is go, go, go. And through turn 1, it is clean. Look at this, 3 wide. We see further back, contact happening everywhere. Everybody's absolutely going everywhere on track. You can see OMB and EVR fighting while LR starts to sprint off into the distance. Now, on the brakes, into turn 3, look at this. Getting very, very spicy between Cormac Hutton and Simon Equestre. And there goes also Jacob, who's also going to make his way through. Whoa, we got some very close racing. Lots of wheel banging, lots of tyre locking. Now, into turn 4, side by side. Whoa, that's a Red Bull that's gone really wide, and that's a Sauber that's also going very slowly, and an OMB driver that's also gone very slowly. But Jacob now makes his way through and up into P4 in this race, and you can see Simon Equestre is really struggling further back in that Aston Martin. It just looks like he's actually dropping through the order, same as his teammate, who's also struggling to keep up on pace at the same time. Carlos just struggling. He's ghosting at the moment, but he's dropped a couple of places as AERT jumped back up to P6 and P7 straight off of the start. Hasho as well, making up a couple of places. He's got a Haas right behind him, trying to make a move. But look at the AERT of Vettel. He goes all off the track, and it's not been a great start. Look at this. And it is Doctor versus Alexander Esposito, and they are battling side by side. SKG versus SCT. We've seen a lot of this in other tiers, and we've seen a lot of this in previous seasons, and they're still going side by side. On the wet tyres, though, is what Doctor is on, and that is an interesting start. Only Parker really getting away off that race start, really, at the back of the pack. Now, Hasho battling with Carlos over P8 here. Who's going to come out on top side by side? And I think, as you can see, Hasho's just dropped a little bit behind. Is he going to send it into turn 4? Yes, he is. He's sending it down the inside. He's got that inside line. Carlos leaving the space, and the grip is there for the Ferrari. And you could just see same Carlos, just the same as his teammate Simon, just can't seem to find any grip at all out on the track while other cars fly past. We've already seen Simon drop from P3 down to P5 in this race. He's already lost 2 places, and we've seen Carlos is also going backwards. I think he's also dropped 2 or 3 places off the start here. So I think he's dropped 3 places, so he's had a very poor start. We can actually have a look. Places lost, yeah. Carlos has lost 2. Has lost 3, and his teammate has lost 2. It's not the best of starts. Everybody's on the intermediates except Clips and Doctor. Those are the only 2 who aren't. And so far, whoa! And there goes Vettel. He's trying to get his way past. Of course, it is the top 13 who score points, so it's not a big gain. It's an extra point. It's up to 4 points for 10th compared to 3. But you can see Clips not really letting the Sauber past with ease and still having to give it a good old battle. LK, though, starting to get off into the distance. He's a second in the lead. Remember, no DRS in wet conditions. He's second off in the lead now. And it's proving to be a little bit of an interesting start to the race, I've got to say. Because if you have a look, EVR at the moment, it's looking again sort of like it's 2 teams in the battle here. EVR versus LR. At the moment, of course, EVR have the points gap at the top of the championship. They've got that 13 points over LR already in the championship. You can see that, still bits of sliding. We said about OMB struggling with a lot of sliding. You can see a couple of other teams as well, especially EVR looking like they're struggling a little bit, but they're still within reach of the win. It's only lap 4. 36 laps to go, by the way. So we'll be hoping, I think these drivers will be hoping for some dry weather to come soon enough. But they'll be hoping it comes a little bit sooner. But you can see Simon is really struggling because he's dropped 1.6 seconds behind P4. He's had a really poor start to his race. And he's now got the Alpine and AERT driver of Gotto behind him. AERT really pushing for some good points this evening. At the moment, they're already going to be getting more points than OMB. So they're already looking like they could be on for a relatively decent evening. It's still all go between everybody. We saw, this is the big thing though now, is teamwork. We see, how many teammates together. We got the top 2, we got 3rd and 4th. We've got 6th and 7th who are teammates. We've got 11th and 12th. And then, we've got a couple of drivers battling further at the back. It's Comic, who is battling at the back with Alexander Esposito, who's dropped a little bit further behind. So, SCT not having the best of starts because Yanni Cassara is still down in P18. So, currently P18 and P20 in the grid order. SCT not looking like they're going to be getting more points so far this evening, as we're about to go on to lap 5. It's disappointing though. You can't lie. Sort of from 3rd in the championship last year to last season, I should say, to this season, 6 points after the first race, and at risk of possibly even not scoring points this week, unless SCT have a really good second stint or they get really somewhere, get a couple of moves made. At the moment, they just can't seem to keep up on pace and make any moves. So for now, it looks like they'll be sticking on those 6 points and dropping behind a couple of other teams. We can also mention that Deck also didn't have a good start to his race either. He struggled a bit. So at the moment, sort of UFRT just floating in that P11, P12, 2 points and 3 points, 5 points altogether for them. We'll pull them past SET as it stands and move them up 1 place in the Constructors' Championship. So at least there is some celebrations for one team out on the grid to move further up the grid. Remember, last season, UFRT were the team that finished last in the Constructors. Then it was ABE just in front of them. So I think it was only 5 points in the end that splitted 10th and 9th. But overall, UFRT was just pretty poor across the entire season. They had sort of no luck at all, and they also received a penalty. Hello, Lafiti. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. And Cormac Hutton, by the way, catching out Jerry Weiss and moving up into P2, and it's a great move for the front row. But Jerry Weiss, he's really trying to help his teammate out a bit here, but he's gone really deep, and it's allowed the other EVR driver of Jacob to just slide his way past with ease. And for Jerry Weiss, that's not worked at all. And he's also now got Cormac Hutton. Teamwork. Looks like it makes the dream up. Oh, into the back of Cormac Hutton as well. Jerry Weiss maybe getting a little bit frustrated in that position. Now, LK has pulled another second to Jacob. So now it's at 2.8 seconds between first and second, which is currently the biggest gap out on track, by the way. But Jerry Weiss, very poor from himself there. Just wasn't able to cover the two drivers. Struggled to beat both EVRs, but to be honest, I think a lot of drivers would have crumbled in that moment anyway, so I can't really blame him. 1 versus 2, and especially from two drivers on the same team, it never really works well. But now EVR starting to stroll off into the distance ahead of Jerry Weiss. But for him, the disappointing fact was that he wasn't really able to slow down EVR too much, only by a few tenths of a second. They've only really dropped at most a second to the race leader, so at the moment, for EVR, they've not really dropped anything. Only a second, and they've got a long way to go in this race. As look at this, Hasho as well gets past Carlos now for P8 as OMB continue to see problems with their grip out there, and that allows Hasho to make his way through. TMS really pushing for positions as there goes Philip on Clips for P13, and now pushing up into the points paying positions. You can see Parker as well sitting in there for SKG, trying to get that extra point to get in front of FR. But as it stands, by the way, LR will move up into... EVR will continue to lead the championship. LR will move into second in the Constructors. Third will then be taken by OMB as it stands, by the way, this evening. OMB will lead with third in the Constructors. So they'll find some extra points, as currently they're on for... if I'm correct, they're on for 15 points, so they'll go up to 22 points with SKG not finding any. So SKG might be down to 5th. At the moment, they might be down to 5th in the 4th to 5th in the Constructors, which is not where they want to be. And same for SET, they're also pretty low down. I think they're 7th in the Constructors as it stands. And they're looking, of course, to go a bit further. But look at this. There goes Charles on Parker for position as Comic now comes into the bits, and he's the first driver to stop in this race as he's heading out now. One SKG not having the best of days, but still battling into turn 4. Charles H. Dubois makes his way in and into P15 as Nemi follows through as well with P16. Look at this. We've got Yannick Asaris, though, for SET. He's trying to force his way round. Still, P18 in this race hasn't really changed for a while. But now, he finally makes a move. And up to P17 after a long 6 laps, by the way. I think it was 5 or 6 laps now of sitting in P18. So he's finally made that move up a place. As Clips is starting to drop through the orders now. Clips is on his way into the pits as well. But you can see the gap has grown. Jerry Weiss now finds himself over a second away from the EVR duo. The EVR duo also separating. But look at this. Jacob has also caught up to the race leader by about 9/10 of a second. Now looking at about 8/10 of a second. But still, he's 8/10 of a second closer to LK than he was when they got past Jerry Weiss. So the gap is starting to come down between the race leader and P2. So the gaps are starting to decrease a bit. out on track. They're decreasing by quite a bit. It's the second biggest gap, by the way. Still 2 seconds. The only other gap is 19.4. But at this point, I think everybody's now thinking about strategy, and for the sort of for the top 5, the big thing that they've got is constructors wise, because we know that as it stands, EVR will continue to lead the constructors. We know LR are going to move up into second in the constructors as well and move ahead of FR and SKG. SKG aren't scoring any points as it stands, so we're going to see LR move past them into second. We're also going to see at the same time, we're going to see AERT also move past them for third, and then OMB, we're going to move past them for fourth. So at the moment, we're looking at sort of SKG being down in 6th in the constructors, possibly even lower with where UFRT are at the moment. But at the moment, they're not scoring a lot of points, only 3 points from them, so they're only going to get ahead of SET in the constructors right now. So there's not a lot of change there. Outside of that, there's not a lot, but still down to sort of 6th in the constructors. If they score 1 point, they'll move up into 5th, but still at the moment they're going to be it's bad. But now there goes Gotto for P5, and that just secures, I think that actually secures a position up in the constructors for AERT. They'll continue to stay in front of OMB in the Constructors' Championship, by the way. That's what they've just done with that move. Confirmation of staying in front and actually being... they will be in third in the Constructors after this race. So they've still, as it stands, they'll be in third. And a new AERT highest in the Championship order of third. As there goes Jerry Weiss. He's gone off track quite a bit there. And he's actually lost a chunk of time. He's lost about 2/10 just purely from going off track. That just shows how much time you actually lose just from one small mistake. But look at this. Jacob is getting quite close. As Clips gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. 2 penalties, and that's 2 drivers at the back of the grid. Nemi is having a bit of a battle with Charles Dubois, and he's ultimately made his way past into P15 now and chasing the points. But they're far, far away, 2 seconds away. And for Yanni Casares, this doesn't help because he's heading down the inside, though. He's decided to make the move. Is he working with his teammate to try and squeeze him through? No. He's simply just squeezing through himself. And into P16 he goes. 3 more places and then he'll be in the points. But the problem is Parker is about 2.5 seconds in front of Yanni Casares. And Parker's on the edge of the points. So for these guys it's looking quite important. But look at this side by side. Tom and Simon Equestre battling side by side. AERT full on, trying to charge for a championship run. And now he's made his way past. For OMB, their weekend is just going backwards as we've now reached the first third. This is after lap 12 will be, we would have completed the first third of tonight's race, by the way. So that's a new one. I've got to say it's a new one. And there goes Hasho as well, by the way, who's also making his way past Simon Equestre while he's struggling. And that allows a bit more. But look at that. Within 2-3 laps, Simon Equestre has just lost 3 places in just 2 laps. So for Simon Equestre, this race is just not going his way. And for OMB, they're down to just gaining 9 points after this week. And they will still surpass SKG in the Championship and FR. But still, not where you want to be after this evening. As we can see, a bit of battling between Vettel and Carlos for P9 in the race as well. Vettel feeling like he's ready to make a move on that Aston Martin. For OMB, it's been a pretty disappointing day. It's been 5 places down. It's 5 places down for Simon Equestre since the start of his race, and it's been 3 places down for Carlos as well, which just shows, 8 places down altogether for OMB. I think that's actually the worst of race starts we've had by a team. Because you can see some teams, we do a bit of a grid order as well on positions lost during the race. You can see, for instance, EVR, in this case, like, if we just look like this, EVR are up a total of 4 positions in this race, while LR are down a total of 2. AERT are up a total of a total of 8 places. And you see, just with each one, TMS is up +1 because it's -4 for his teammate. It's -8 for O and B. You see with AZR it's 0 because they've got +1 and +2, and a -2. So it just kind of works out like that, and you can just see how for some it's worked, some it hasn't. And even if one driver's gone up the grid, doesn't mean overall as a team they've done better. But now, we say about doing better, and it's Jacob who's caught up. He's within a second now of LK. Are we going to be seeing a swap for the lead? My bigger question is, if we see EVR take a second victory out of round 2, if they win round 2 of the season, they continue their Constructors' Championship charge, another win this season, which actually means, remember they had one win, their first win in Season 4, their one and only win of Season 4, which came in Great Britain. That was their only win before Season 5. I think they bagged also a win or two, I think at the end of last season. I think they won 2 races at the end of last season, so they did get another, I think, 2 races in the end, so they are up to 3 wins, and then of course with the one from last week, that's 4 wins, and after this race, if they're able to win this race, it will be a 5th race victory for EVR in assists, and continuing to go up the order. The record is still AMS, if I am correct. It's still AMS on 19 victories in 4 seasons. In 4 seasons, they've had 19 victories. EVR in 3 have so far had 4 victories. So, just to point out, AMS's best season had 6 wins in it. That's their best season, was 6 victories in a single season. Total wins, though, I'm not sure. Total wins, I know, excluding 4s, I think all 2's championships, I think AMS have 19 altogether, and I think they are still the highest. I know SET got 9 last season with 7 wins and no assists, and I think 2 in assists. So they had 9 wins altogether, and so I think they have 10 wins. So I think they're the 3rd team to actually reach double digits for points. Not for points, for wins. They're the 3rd team to do it. I know ABE, they have 5 wins. So if EVR do win tonight, they'll equal ABE in 5 wins. Of course, the record is now 7 wins in a single season, and 6 wins in a row is the record set by SET last season. 6 wins in a season, by the way, was only recreated in Season 1 and 2 in the 2 13-race seasons, 13-race calendar seasons. And then last season, of course, in Season 5, when we returned to a 13-race calendar for the first time on F1 25, we saw SET break those records, get the most as Gotto now, by the way, also getting past Jerry Weiss for a place and up to P4. AERT liking that P4 position. Now they chase down Cormac Hutton for P3, but it definitely looks like AERT have stumbled across a very strong setup as they're just absolutely just ripping their way through the grid at the moment. From low side of top 10 as now Cormac Hutton makes his way in on lap 17. So he's now making his way in on lap 16, sorry. Going on to lap 17 as Philip gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Parker cooking. We'll have to wait and see whether Parker is really cooking in this race, because he's kind of sat here. I can tell you he's made 2 overtakes this race. 2 actual overtakes during this entire race. So, for 16 laps, not a lot of overtakes. One overtake per 8 laps, but so far it's all he needs. He's P12. He would score 2 points for SKG. and move them up ahead of FR in the constructors, but it's just not a race they need. Same for SCT. This was not, quali bans were not what they really needed, and so it's a tough evening for, I think, both SKG and SCT. I think they're both having a very tough evening. As Deck gets a 3-second time penalty, that's just going to help Parker and Yanni Casares out there in the points positions. An honest result so far. It depends. I think we'll have to wait and see, as now Simon Equestre makes his way into the pits. He's in the pits now. Yeah, on your comment of QFE, very quiet race they've had, but solidly in that P10. Was P12, I think. Mike Gravel was P12, I believe. So, I've got to say, P12 still isn't bad, you know. It's still 2 points and debut points. Is now Tom also making his way past Jerry Weiss. Not going to be so easy this time with the LR driver, but he's still got the inside line to the next corner, side by side, through the long left-hander. Who's going to get the upper hand here? And I think it's AERT Tom, and he's up into P4. Of course, he got P4 last week in China. Whoa, we just saw a massive slide for Jerry Weiss, who's having to defend for his life here. As Jacob also comes in, going in for that stop onto lap 19. So he's changing over tyres now. The race leader still going further. Gotto and Tom now into P2 and P3. Jerry Weiss under lots of attack. Under lots of sort of attack now. He's just under attack from everyone, because we saw the two AERTs get past, but now Hasho also looking to get past the McLaren. Can he get past the McLaren? Little bit of tyre locking. You see more tyre locking there. And whoa, and quite a bit more side by side. They're really pushing each other all the way. We've seen these two quite close. And now Hasho makes his way up into P4, and that's another position down for Jerry Weiss. One LR has led every single lap of this race, by the way. All 18 laps so far. The other has just been dropping backwards through the order, down 3 places in this race now. So it's been a slow and painful one for Jerry Weiss. It's been a very slow and painful one for the McLaren, but he's really struggling, because look at this. We've got Carlos as well, who's also pushing for position. Look at this. Absolute chaos. I'm not sure what's going on. Whoa! Massive contact! As Carlos almost loses it through the fast right-hander. As now Tom heads into the pits as well. He makes his way in. And you can see Cormac Hutton and Jacob are both together. But look at this. Absolute chaos going on with Jerry Weiss struggling. It's absolute chaos going on further back. We've got Carlos, who's just trying to get past this McLaren. He's got the Sauber to the right of him. The Sauber going for it. Whoa! Sliding! Vettel sliding his way into turn 3. I did not think we were going to see that this evening, but the wet conditions clearly proving to still be quite slippery out there, as Vettel and Carlos battle over P5 here. Who's going to get the upper hand? Who's going to get the drive out of the corner? And it looks like it could just be Vettel. He's just coming out in front, and it is Vettel up to P5 in the race. And for AZR, it's a good return. But look at this. A massive problem at the apex. No turning at all for the Sauber. And Carlos almost made the move back, but in the end, he's been able to hold on to the places he now chases after Jerry Weiss in P4. He's chasing after the McLaren, who's going quite slowly. As we see Gotto now into the pits. Looking back to EVR, they're actually starting to crawl back through the order, back into the points, by the way. P12 and P13 already, so proving that they're pretty quick. But the problem is they've got to start to make moves. And you can see Cormac Hutton getting past Charles for P11 already. Just no real point in even fighting it, really, for the Red Bull, as he's got both EVRs to deal with. As I think you can see Jacob is also going to be making that move past the Red Bull very shortly. And now Cormac Hutton has got some more cars in front of him to deal with. As there goes Jacob on Charles for P12. And that's another position gain for EVR. Another 2 positions gain. But look at this. Cormac Hutton round the outside on Yanni Casares. Up to P11. That just shows the difference in pace at the moment. Down the inside of Nemi. And there he goes. Whoa! Nemi losing the car heavily. He loses the car a lot there. And you could just see Jacob was also able to scrape past Nemi as well at the same time. So they've both been able to scrape past and into the positions. And you can see, look at this. Yanni Casares isn't even battling with Jacob over position. Yanni Casares just knows he hasn't got the pace to battle with them. And there's not much point. He hasn't stopped yet in this race. We've got a couple more drivers coming in. The QFE drivers have come into the pits. Let's have a look. Stop so far. Quite a few drivers. We've got the EVR duo and 13th and downwards have all stopped. As you can see in the tyres. Philip has gone to the hard tyres though. He's gone for something a bit different. Are the hard tyres any good at all? That's the question. Are they any good? They don't seem to be any good. But Deck as well making a couple of moves. He's made his way past Parker for P6. So Parker down a place to SKG for the first time this evening, going backwards. And now has been caught up by Cormac Hutton as well. So it's so intriguing how quickly the EVRs have caught up to the back of the cars in front. Look at this, side by side. Whoa, side by side. Cormac Hutton gets past Deck. Holy, the balls for that move is unbelievable. Simon Equestre gets a 3-second time penalty. Jacob as well now makes his way past Deck as well. So the EVR duo just quickly tearing their way through the grid at the moment, sitting at about 12 seconds behind the race leader. They're going to have a couple of extra laps of wear, but we know the tyres can go that far. So now they are just very much chasing the chance to win and to get the undercut, because that's going to be their biggest thing, is the undercut. And we could just see Cormac Hutton again. He's the man making all the moves along with his teammates, Jacob, as he goes up to P5 now in this race. And another position gain and back up into the top 5. I've never seen drivers just... Oh my god, he's going to go for another move. Whoa, going for it on Vettel. He's side by side with Vettel. This is one of the worst camera angles I've ever seen. But in the end, I don't get why those camera angles kick in. But in the end, it's Cormac Hutton who gets up into P4. And a couple moves made. And Jacob now 3 wide! 3 wide! Oh my god! Absolute chaos! Going on all around. There's a yellow flag. Somebody's gone off. That is Vettel, who's gotten a puncture. It's Vettel. He's gotten a puncture. Oh my god. And the rain has stopped. The rain has stopped. Does this mean it's dry racing? As now, there goes Cormac Hutton on Jerry Weiss. Once again in this race for the second time, the EVRs are going to get past Jerry Weiss. Oh my god, so unlucky for Vettel to lose his tyres like that. 12.5 seconds between first and third. Whoa! That's Hasho. That's Hasho. Puncture for Hasho as well. It's a puncture for him to add on to it. What a horrific day it is for some teams. They're just absolutely in the muds. Yanni Casares gets a 3-second time penalty. We can see the EVR drivers are going to go longer on their tyres. They think that's the best strategy, is just to go a bit, at least just a bit longer. Jacob has just set the fastest lap of the race. That's beaten by Tom immediately to 11.4. But where does LK come out in all this? He comes out in P6. He's going to come out far behind where he wants to be. He's down in P6. And that's disappointing. But for Hasho and for TMS, it's even more disappointment for them. Looked like big points were on for Chance. Hasn't happened in the end, and it's just all fallen apart for TMS this evening. And now, finally, for the first time this evening, EVR will lead the race from leading over 70% of last week's race to now leading none of it in the first 24 laps of the race. They led 0 laps. They're finally on lap 25 going to be leading their first lap of the Austrian Grand Prix here in FRLT, round number 2. It's the first time they're going to be leading the race this evening, and at least they can start to tot up the numbers. But who? It's hard tyres for LK. He's gone for the hard tyres. He thinks they're quicker. He thinks they're the quicker tyre. They don't seem to be a lot faster, but times are improving. Carlos gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings getting this race, and now the EVR duo both racing around. DRS is not enabled. Mike Gravel gets a 10-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. That is going to ruin Mike Gravel's race and the chance of points for QFE this evening. As DRS is now enabled, I think this is time. I think this is enough that says to the drivers they need to come in to the pits. They're not going to be able to make it another 10 laps on the intermediate tyres. Not with a very fast LK behind on fresh hards. They're not going to be able to make it to the end of the race. I think the medium tyres should be able to stretch to the end of the race. Now, one EVR is coming in. I think we're seeing that from both teams of EVR and AERT into the pits. Cormac Hutton gets into the pits as quickly as he can as he rolls around at that 40 miles per hour. LK has just set the fast lap of the race at a 1:10, so it's still not incredibly fast lap times we're seeing. But where is Cormac Hutton going to come out? He's out onto the medium tyres like I said they would be. Parker close behind. Has SKG done a strategy and a masterpiece of a strategy? Possibly up to P4 in this race. But we're going to have to wait and see. Because now he does have Cormac Hutton. He does have Carlos. He does have Jerry Weiss and Gotto all behind, who are still needing to come in. And you can see Cormac Hutton has the DRS and he just flies past Parker with the extra straight line speed. Absolute brilliance there. You can see the top two still on the intermediate tyres, the rest on hards and mediums. Together, probably we'll be seeing the top two also head on to the mediums. But you can see the gap is coming down bit by bit, but it is coming down decently, down to 11.2 seconds already. So 8/10 lost this lap for LK. LK just set a 1:07.4, so we've just seen a lap time 3 seconds quicker than his previous. So it is now dry, and it's a dry end to the race. I was wondering whether we were going to see a dry end to tonight's race. Carlos has now just set the fast lap on a 7.2, so half a second quicker. Now a 6.9 from Alexander, but now Cormac Hutton is closing in on LK. LK's got to save his tyres because he's been on those tyres for a little bit longer, but Cormac Hutton doesn't really need to do the same because he is closing in very quickly. Jacob, by the way, battling, and it's absolute chaos further back because Tom is actually getting in a bit of a mess here. He's got drivers all over him from every single angle in turn 3. Now down to turn 4. Is he going to be down to P10 in this race? Let's see. Onto the curve. He's still holding it around the outside of Simon Equestre for position. Has he held it? Has he held it for P9? Has he done it? Yes, he has. And up to P9 for Tom. And we also saw Gotto get past Jerry Weiss for P5 in this race as well. Closing in, hopefully, on the race leaders as Tom also gets past Deck for P8. So incredibly fast moves from Tom in for AERT. But LK leads, but that lead has come down by another second since the last time I looked at it, by the way. A second per lap is what it's coming down by at the moment. You can see Cormac Hutton sitting at 10.1 seconds. He's closed in by about another 6/10 from the last lap, so he's finding time. Gotto as well, closing in. He's on the hard tyres instead. Parker, though, has Parker done a good strategy or not? Let's have a look how many laps old. He's on 4 laps old, so he is on older tyres. He's on the hard tyres. Have SKG done the comeback they needed to at least seal themselves for third in the Constructors after this evening. We'll have to wait and see. But Gotto also closing in behind. So we'll have to wait and see who's going to do well and who isn't. Yellow flag. That's for, I think, Hasho, who's retired. Our first retiree of the evening. I've got to say, lap 28 to be the first retiree is interesting. And now on to lap 30. We go. Just another 6 laps of the race to go. And the gap has grown again to 11.1 seconds, by the way, between first and second. So it doesn't look like the gap is going to be reducing tonight. So it looks like we're going to be waiting for that gap to change. We're going to be waiting quite a while. But I don't think it's going to be possible for EVR to win this evening. But I do think it's going to be possible for EVR to ultimately have the best average finishes now. He's attacking on Jerry Weiss. Jacob trying to make his way past. Both EVRs trying their best to get up in positions. Jacob's not so far been able to make these medium tyres work, and onto the gravel he goes. I don't think he's going to be too happy with Jerry Weiss about that defence. But that's also, by the way, Dr. Comic, who is now out of the race. Second time of the evening. 1 TMS and an SKG out this evening. And heading down to start off lap 31 for Jacob. He needs to get past Jerry Weiss. Then it will be P5. With Carlos's penalty, it will be P5 in this race. So it will be an extra position. It will be 10 points. So they will still be taking, I believe, they'll still be taking 25 points at the end of the evening. Highest out of any, I think second highest on the grid. So now Parker's gotten past Cormac Hutton for P2 in this race. 5 laps to go. What is going to happen here this evening? Also, I just thought of something. Let me know what you guys think about the expansion coming to F1 25 in 2026. And how we'll be spending another 18 months on this year's game as Jacob finally now gets past Jerry Weiss for P6 in this race. As he now chases after P5. As well, as you can just see, he's just going to make that move with ease for P5. But he's also gotten a penalty himself, so he's going to drop down to P8 anyway. Possibly P7 in the end. So it's still going to be a bit of chaos, but you can see a little bit of battling further back. Jerry Weiss having a bit of a fight with a few others. Everybody's fighting for position right now. Tom as well, trying to make a couple of moves. It's getting a little bit close for comfort, and Jerry Weiss, it's been a bit of a tough day for him. Front row, P2, hoping to make it a 1-2 finish in tonight's race, but he's down in P6. Will be going up to P5 after Jacob's penalty, but still, only P1, P5, 28 points, 29 points with fastest lap as well, with pole, 29 points after this evening for LR. Then it will be SET, who of course score 15 points this evening. And then it's EVR behind who will be scoring. They'll be scoring 10, 7, 6 points. And of course 13, so 19 points. So they'll be dropping 10 points to LR in the Constructors. Which of course they only lead by 13 points. It's going to be a 3-point gap after this race between LR and EVR in the Constructors' Championship. So at the moment, for Cormac Hutton, he really needs to get this move back past Parker for P3, but he's got Gotto catching up on the hard tyres as well. Maybe the hard tyres would have been a better option for the EVR duo. Of course, this evening, they're not going to be coming out on top. They're not going to be coming out where they wanted to be after round 2. We're not going to see a back-to-back victory. We're going to see LR achieve their first. We're going to see them achieve their win tonight with a 10-second lead, by the way. with a 10-second lead in this race. I've got to say, it is so dominant to see from the driver team as now Cormac Hutton, 3 laps to go, still battling for his P2. He's still battling to get on that front row, to still have his P2 finish, but maybe he jumped the gun a little bit early. But I think he's trying to work with Parker a little bit for position just for now until the final lap. But I do have to say, I think it's an interesting one because you look at EVR and you go, they had a dominant first race. You know, they were close with FR, but it was very much overall as a team. EVR, and then this evening, sort of LR and EVR sitting on that sort of same level. AERT as well, sitting on that same level of performance, kind of as a whole team. So it's more like 3 teams now that are sort of in the mix. You know, we're going to see LR, EVR, and AERT pull up into the top 3 in the constructors, because we're going to see one LR, they're going to gain 29 points on top of the 14, so 33, 43 points after this evening. We're seeing, you know, 90 points for these guys. Whoa, Ngotto down the inside. He's trying to make the move past Cormac Hutton, and it is going to be the move. So at the moment, it looks even worse for EVR. This actually, I'm thinking, does this mean they lose the lead of the championship? They had a 13-point lead. That's 18. That's 29 points, by the way, for LR so far, based off of where they'd finish. It's 29 points. But it's going to be, what? It's going to be 6 points for Jacob, and it's going to be 11, so it's going to be 17 points. So it's going to be 12 points. There's going to be a 1-point gap in the championship between first and second in the constructors out of round 2, proving to be an incredibly close constructors championship. No swapping in the championship out of round 2. We didn't see that in season 4. We didn't see that last season. We did see a swap last season in the constructors championship between P1 and P2 out of round 2. AERT Tom gets a 3-second time penalties now. Jacob will just be P6 for himself, so that helps Jacob a little bit now. Final lap of the race, but with, you know, I haven't really had to speak about LK today because he's just been in a world of his own. He's very much just been in a world of his own because he's just been sitting there in the lead of the race. He's had nothing to fight for, nobody to really battle with. He's just been there the whole time. And he's got just one more corner to go before LR achieve their first win of Season 5 assists, as LK wins in Austria in FRLT Season 6, round number 2 of assists. And it is a brilliant victory and a dominant one for himself. 10 seconds in the lead. Then it's followed by Parker, an incredible comeback from the SKG driver. Then Gotto, AERT get their first podium of the season. Then Cormac Hutton. Then Jerry Weiss. Then Tom. Then Alexander Esposito. Carlos. Simon. Yannick Casares. Deck. Jacob. Jacob will get his 10-second time penalty removed. I just want to point that out. He will get that removed since it is an unfair penalty. So he will get that penalty removed. So he will finish in P6, that would be. So it's 18 points on the day for EVR, just 18 points compared to 17, so they've dropped 9 points from the last week. So they will be up to 45 points. So very, very close race, but you've got to give it to the man on top, LK. P1, dominant day, 10.3 seconds in the lead. Exactly what they wanted. LK has had tough performances. He had tough performances in Season 4. They had a tough season in Season 4 and Season 5. LK wasn't able to deliver a massive performance last season. He got away with a podium, but now in Season number 6, he finally claims that win. And LR finally get that victory to their season they've been waiting for so long. So, with that, is a victory for LR, and a great victory for them. Biggest leading distance of the season so far, 10.3 seconds. I think that's going to be a pretty tough one to beat. But let's have a look. LK wins from pole, followed by Parker with an incredible comeback. Gotto, Cormac Hutton, Jerry Weiss, Tom, Alexander Esposito, also with a brilliant comeback. Carlos, Simon, then Yannick Asaris, then Deck, then Jacob, then Nemi, Clips, Charles, Vettel, and Philip. Then the retirees being Mike, Doctor, and Hasho, with of course Jacob finishing in P6 in the end, by the way. P6 in the end. But with that, that is the end of the race, and that was very interesting. I've got to say, incredible race that we've seen here this evening. I didn't expect that we were going to see that, if I'm being honest. So yeah, absolutely incredible. Very interesting evening. I'm gonna say my driver of the day. I'm gonna have to give it to Parker. The incredible comeback. I've got to give it to him. It's between three drivers for me. I think Parker won. I think he definitely deserves driver of the day. But I also think I've got to give it to LK. The lead that he built by the end was brilliant and consistent. Yeah, I think it's very much between those two. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. In the end, it is the end of tonight's stream. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also click on the notification bell to know about all of the content we do, from shorts, streams, and videos. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. We'll be back on Saturday at 8 PM for round number 2 here at Austria once again, but for no assists instead. A couple new teams coming in. XPG replace FR. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely brilliant week. I'll be back very soon. Goodbye.
Feel like we're falling away. Maybe I just need to feel nothing to make it easier to turn away and leave. Maybe we're fanning the flame. So why do I keep holding out my hand to get burned? I don't wanna clash anymore. I can hear the ghosts in the walls. It's telling me to run away, yeah. I don't wanna crash anymore. I can hear the ghosts in the walls. It's telling me to run away.
Here in Monza, and it is a race opening victory for Eve. And still battling with Kuba.
You said you don't know me well, but I'm your angel in white. I'll be close if you come. I'll be just behind you. You're not on the list, but I can get you. anxieties. You might listen to my voices and guide you. Give yourself over, yeah, you don't wanna fight. If you do, I'm gonna bid you a
But he's
hard
gone wide!
night,
Speedy's going
hang on to your
incredible!
ticket, you're doing alright. And if you don't trust it, hold it up to the light. So quiet, try to hide it. If a new thought formed, we would swallow it down. Empty stares, never question the illusion. If you play alone, they will leave you to drown. Stand up, 'cause we are the movement. Don't stop, straight into the dark. Wake up, 'cause the system